Good day everyone, Dr. Blob here. With Sultifer and Abyss over, we now have two parts of the maddening puzzle that is the Aegir Seaborn storyline. So I thought it was finally time to give my 2 cents regarding its possible end goal. However, there are still some blanks here and there, so for the first time ever, I will be breaking the spoiler ban I put on myself regarding CN events, reading all I could find of Season 3 of Integrated Strategies. So if you don't want Cerulean Harbor to be spoiled, this is your warning. Also, by sheer coincidence, I write this down just as Quasar Senpai released his video, so I will be taking some of his points into consideration. If you haven't seen it, please do. It is an interesting watch, and it's only fair after all. With that out of the way, let's start. What are the Seaborn? As far as we know, Seaborn are a sea-dwelling lifeform with unmatched evolutionary properties and a shared link among all members of the swarm, making them a hive mind. I see a lot of similitudes between the Seaborn and StarCraft's Zergs. Keep this in mind, it will be important later. Their history is a bit muddled, as with everything ancient in Terra. But what we know is that they were minding their own business until a bunch of fish people come across and start blowing shit up. Understandably, the Seaborn didn't take kindly of these noisy neighbors, thus initiating the Aegir-Seaborn conflict. At some point, the Aegir discovered the evolutionary properties of their foes, giving birth to the branches which will come to determine the conflict we know today, the Abyssal Hunters and the Church of the Deep. Driven to chase after their family, read Abyssal Hunters, and coaxed to go into land by the Church, the Seaborn are one of the biggest threats currently rising from the shores of Terra. While they can take many forms, from the largest of leviathans to the smallest microorganism, the Seaborn bond is so strong, consumption doesn't guarantee its destruction, but rather their spreading. Be it in them or by chirurgical process, once in your body, you will eventually become one of them. Pretty much everyone in Salviento. However, that doesn't mean the host will lose their individuality right away, as their mind will be able to fight off the swarm as long as their will allows them to, clearly seen in characters such as the Hunters, the Bishops, and some hybrids. An important point to note is something said by Gladia during Undertides, how thinking yourself as a hunter will help wonders in not turning, implying that the Seaborn blood doesn't corrupt their host for the evils, but rather it molds the host's body to what the mind believes it to be, meaning the host's perception of themselves is what drives their transformation, best seen in the 3 bishops of the deep we know so far. Quintus saw ancients as weak and feeble, worthy of being mere cattle, reflected in his own appearance, soggy and decrepit. Amaya saw the Seaborn as divine, as beings worthy of worship and adoration, beyond mankind. Thus, she didn't show any visible signs of corruption, as she viewed herself but as a servant to her gods. Cicero, who we won't see properly until IS-3, is the most divergent member of the bishops by far, as he is the only member who sees himself as a biologist and the Seaborn as nothing but a very complex yet primitive lifeform which might be able to coexist with those inland. This is reflected in his body, as there seems to be a perfect balance between the Seaborn blood and his Terran self. Now, why is this important? As mentioned, the self-appreciation of the host defines how their body will adapt to the corruption. The Hunters were told they were now predators of their sworn enemies, and their bodies adapted as such. But were they to realize what really gives them their strength, they will be corrupted almost immediately, as they saw the Seaborn as nothing else but monsters. This is the result of environmental suggestion. While autosuggestion is normally used as a type of hypnotic therapy, environmental suggestion can be used in detrimental ways. As, let's say, you believe most of your life that your foe is an aberration that should be eradicated from the face of the earth, or ocean in this case. Yet one day you come to realize you are related by blood to those very monsters. Blood that reacts to whatever the host believes themselves to be. Said in simpler terms,
just a heads up, that coffee we gave you earlier had fluorescent calcium in it so we can track the neuronal activity in your brain. There's a slight chance the calcium could harden and vitrify your frontal lobe. Anyway, don't stress yourself thinking about it. I'm serious. Visualizing the scenario while under stress actually triggers the reaction.
Don't take me wrong. It is not like I am ignoring the influence the swarm has on the host's mind. as seen in characters like Garcia, the yet to debut Highmore, and even Gladia. We can see an example of the latter in the last event, when the Herald in turn offered her a piece of his flesh in order to grow stronger. What followed was something quite out of character from her, who often insults whatever her prey has to say and finishes discussions with her spear. Yet this time, she didn't retort a thing, neither did she attack. She stood there, in shock. While it's not stated in-game, I believe this was her shock not at the offer, but at the fact a part of her mind, no matter how small, considered it. We know she's the most desperate to finish the fight with the Seaborn, as she is afraid of turning before seeing that they come true, thus making her the most susceptible one to the pull of the swarm, even more so than Skadi. On that note, while Skadi almost fell to the Herald's words, we have to remember she just saw her compatriot being stabbed in the chest while the other one lied unresponsive inside a tank, by being cursed by a being calling directly at her blood. Yet once she had her companions back to her side, she fought back the corruption right there and there. So long she is in alone, she won't be turning. But for how long? We have canonical timelines, or simulations, I didn't quite get that, regarding the Seaborn victory over land. Are we just delaying the inevitable? We know they lie dormant for millennia without a care in the world, and now roam the land due to the aforementioned bishop's meddling. This is very important. While dismissive of those not part of the swarm, the Seaborn can be easily influenced by those recognized as kin. So then, a political approach? This comes with some setbacks, mainly the fact the Seaborn don't understand the meaning of coexistence with other species. Oh, they can reach a transactional relationship as seen in Salviento, but that will turn humanity into cattle at best. If it's not a part of the swarm, it's only good for nourishment. Here is where we have one light of hope, as there is one Seaborn not bending to the swarm, but neither rejecting his own blood. None other than the last knight, baby, making sure to save mankind one wave at a time. Oh, and Nami's beloved child, I guess. Jokes aside, Mizuki is the product of Caesar's work, a hybrid which knows itself as Seaborn, yet still retains his individuality. Mizuki is a key player in all possible endings for IS-3, but in those endings in which he influences the Seaborn, he requires the aid of one of the sleeping Leviathans, a firstborn at that, meaning he can solve this problem on his own. So that's that. Sooner or later, one of the endings from IS-3 will come to be true, including Skadi becoming Sharmala and warring with the Surface World? Not exactly. Yes, the endings of IS-3 could be possible, as they are parallel timelines where everything that could go wrong, went wrong. This is the Seaborn's equivalent to Endgame. We know what's the worst possible outcome. There is a risk to failing, so what can be done to avoid said end? For starters, don't lose Skadi. Apparently, her corruption occurred due to two factors. She lost her teammates, and the Church of the Deep managed to get a hold of her. The first is already terrible enough. Add to that those who want nothing but for the gods sleeping inside her to resurface. Game over, man. Game over. So, first thing on the list, don't free Willy. Also, keep her team alive. At the very least, that should slow down her corruption enough for things to play differently. While Senpai mentioned that a possible solution would be to have her entrapped within her own might. I don't think that would be the best solution. Not only will be way too cruel and out of character for the Doctor to do that, but also will make Skadi a potential nuke waiting to go off at the slighted breach of said labyrinth. Sharmala has left for millennia. What is waiting a couple of centuries more? Which brings me to what I believe could be the best solution. We pretty much do the same thing Mizuki did, but with Skadi's help. As a balanced hybrid himself, Mizuki is the perfect teacher for Skadi to learn how to make amends with her body, and we have even seen hints of this with his relationship with Highmore. In principle, this is the same idea as Senpai's, but with a different approach. Don't make Skadi fight the Seaborn Eater, but neither go along with them. Make Skadi take over control from Sharmala, make his power her own, and then influence the Seaborn. Not control them, influence them. Remember how I compared the Seaborn with the Zerg? Well, at the end of the second game, the Zerg are left with a consciousness. They still have a link connecting them all and rely on their instincts to live by, but now are able to understand human concepts such as cooperation, individuality, coexistence, and even compassion. This is Isero's end goal, the possible solution Terra could go for as well. Would it be easy? Hell no, if I didn't read wrongly. Isharmla is one stubborn being, determined to drown everything in the name of migrating his kind to newer realms, making this the mind of a god versus that of a very tired and traumatized woman. It doesn't seem like a fair fight, but here is where that other part of my plan comes into place. Keep her team alive. And I don't mean just the Abyssal Hunters, but everyone around her. The Doctor, Amia, Granny, Carol, Anita, everyone in Rhodes and Aegir. So long there is a support net for her to rely on, Skadi might be able to keep the fight going against the Deep One. And I'm not just pulling this from the power of friendship trope. This is Terra after all. No, I have but one example where this has been proven to work. In the canonical ending of IS-3, as in the one which actually happened, Highmore turns into a Seaborn. Despite being another creation of Cicero, she lost her mental battle against the Swarm, yet thanks to Mizuki's efforts and her own desire to remain human, she was able to turn back. The will of the many is not all powerful. It can be rebuked. While it can be stated that this happened because of how young of a Seaborn Highmore was, or how little pull the Swarm had over her, which I admit are valid points, they do not deny the value of this ending. To bring a real life example to the table, what is the best action to take when someone suffers from an incurable but treatable illness? They are not left to be defined by their loss, neither to deny their reality. They are aided to make amends with said reality, to accept who they are, and to own themselves. The past won't come back, but that never stops someone from taking a hold of their future. So in a way, Senpai is right. So long as Skadi gets enough gas, there is a chance of turning the tides on this fight. Or so I believe. There is still much information needed to see if any of this can come to fruition, but seeing how the main theme of Arknights is to find happiness in a cracksack world through mutual collaboration, I want to bet that this is my what happened in the end. But what do you think? Do you think Senpai has more ground in his theory, or do you believe something different could happen? Don't doubt to leave a commentary down below, and let's see what possibilities we can make. From the bottom of the sea, I am Dr. Blob, wishing you all a great day, and yet again asking for a like, share and subscribe, so I can go and spread my word to all land lovers. So until next time, stay healthy everyone.